Hey everybody, you're watching HuffPost Live. I'm Mark Lamont Hill. Joining me today is somebody you all know, but he's doing something that you may not know about. The great rapper, entrepreneur, and actor 50 Cent is with me. Thanks for being here, man.
It's a pleasure.
So talk to me about what you're doing these days. There's a big initiative around hunger.
Right. My first project that I launched was the Street King Project. And it's really based on my traveling and interacting with people from different actual ethnicities and walks of life. I was in Africa and I experienced something that's more extreme than low-income housing in America. And after witnessing famine, when I got back, I wanted to do something that would actually impact it. And the only way to not dig directly in my pocket and feel it in that actual fashion to just give back, and that wouldn't be enough.
Right. Although you do that as well.
Absolutely, but to do that is not enough of a impact.
Right.
Because there's limitations to how much you can just give away.
Yeah.
I started a project, the Street King Project, and it's an energy drink that promotes conscious capitalism. The model that I put it under provides a meal through the United Nations World Food Program with every bottle of the actual energy drink sold.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of mirrors the Tom Shoe model. I think he had the right idea. With every pair of shoes that you purchase, he provides a pair of shoes for someone in need, but we just can't eat shoes.
That's true. That's an interesting model. First of all, the idea of conscious capitalism is something that I think a lot of people haven't taken on. It's either one extreme or the other. Either people are, Mitt Romney, right? Like, forget all y'all. Or it's the other extreme where people don't want to, people think having money is a bad thing.
Yeah, and you know what, I think we all have, most of us have adjusted to the concept of living life on the highest level possible.
Yeah. And
look forward to, having moments that we're comfortable and can enjoy things without, having to be conscious of bills on that level.
Yeah.
So I don't want to unprogram people to, or to have people not be entrepreneurs. Because, I think that's the strongest point in my character. The not seeing limitations is what allows me to come from the bottom and be in the position that I'm in now. So, I would just say to promote the concept of this actual project, when I launched it too, is from around the same time that we were experiencing Occupy Wall Street, LA, Chicago, all of these issues where people feel like the major corporations are not conscious of the everyday person.
You agree with that?
Well, I mean, they do some giving back, but this model would, totally X out that concept.
Right. The model that you're talking about now.
Right.
Right.
So the Street King Project, it was important that I had an organization that was a reputable organization that would assure my actual audience that it's going where I'm saying it's going.
I understand, right.
And it's because within hip hop, it's always been, if it's not about money, then it ain't really about anything.
Right.
And it's because a lot of the actual artists come from low income or not having very much, that they're pretty conscious of finance. Like when I go to America Gives Back or Feeding America, I don't see any of my peers for music. But I have influenced them in different ways through the success of my vitamin water deal. Within their brand extension and opportunities, they look forward to having equity involvement that will allow them to be paid off more than the upfront basic amount of money that major corporations or companies are willing to pay artists to endorse the actual products.
You're modeling a couple of things here then. One thing you're modeling is financial stability and just financial literacy. I mean, in the short amount of time that you've been in hip hop, you've managed to amass amount of money that it took some people much longer, even Russell, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
I mean, it took them longer.
A lot longer, yeah.
Yeah, he said a lot. I like you did that.
There it is. My peers, I get a chance to watch them. I've learned from their actual experiences. Like from Russell Simmons, he encouraged Sean John clothing, Rockaware clothing, G-Unit clothing.
Right.
With the example of Fat Farm, it gave us a reference to how we can actually influence things by way of the culture and actually sell product.
Did Russell also influence you on the giving side of things? He's been very active on that front.
Yeah, I mean, but look at the difference in the age gap and how long Russell's been successful. The other artists or people that are affiliated with hip-hop culture don't have very much philanthropy going on outside of the basic,
right? Get some t-shirts.
Let me give you a few dollars because I need this for my tax,
right? My
taxes. Like to take it and create this model and allow some of their brand extension and opportunities to, find your cause of choice, not following hunger. I chose hunger, because when you look at it closer, it's not a third world issue, it's a world issue. 1 in 6 Americans are going hungry. You got kids going to school relying on school lunch to, make it through the day.
Wow, and that's what I was going to say. This is connected to not just your experience traveling the world, but even growing up where you grew up. I mean, not like you grew up with the silver spoon.
Right.
Quite the opposite, in
I
fact.
still have habits. I still eat cheese sandwiches. You know how you get a block of cheese?
Is that a hood thing or a jail thing?
It's a hood thing.
All right, no, because I've had some rough weekends and I remember eating cheese
When
sandwiches.
they give you free cheese, you learn to carve a little thin piece off and put some bread, go ahead and eat it.
Yeah.
You know?
So does that circulate back to the hood too in terms of how you do your work? I know you're doing a global initiative,
Right.
but do you concentrate on places like Queens, like places where there's food deserts?
I do concentrate on it. During the holidays, we've done like turkey drives, get to give away turkey, and work for other food drives in the actual neighborhood, and it draws excitement to it because they see us there, and then people who really need things, they put the image down at different points.
Yeah.
They don't feel like, well, I'm bigger than going there. If they're there, then they're like, okay, I'll stop by there.
Right.
You know, so it's cool to get out there and make them comfortable with the situation, you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring some people into our conversation because there are people who've been waiting to talk to you, ask you some questions. We have in the community hangout, we have Greg Corbin, who's an activist, poet, and a playwright. He's joining us from the greatest city on earth, Philadelphia. We have Justin Moore, who's an entrepreneur. He's from Queens, but we let him on anyway. Tatiana Abramova, who's an activist for Share Our Strength, Kid Hungry. Why don't we start with you, actually, Tatiana? You had a question for 50, and you also have been listening to the conversation we've been having about how he's taking seriously this issue of global hunger.
Well, actually, I just wanted to reiterate that my focus always has been childhood hunger because a child who is hungry, realistically, physically, cannot have the same opportunities, even in a learning environment, which is why I support Share Our Strength. That's my organization of choice because they work with schools directly to provide programs for the children in need so that they can focus on learning and creating these opportunities for themselves without having to focus on where their next cheese sandwich comes from. I grew up in the Soviet Union during the lean years, and so I'm not at all a stranger to childhood hunger. And I think that's probably why this topic is so important to me. And I just wanted to commend 50 on doing a tremendous effort in this area as well.
No, absolutely. And this childhood piece is critical. I mean, again, it's hard for kids to even learn if they're hungry.
Yeah, it's hard to concentrate. When you're hungry, you can't retain the information. Yeah.
And I think people don't understand the connection between food and all these other issues, whether it's health, whether it's education. I mean, it's not a single issue, it's a connection.
It is, absolutely. And when you're under those circumstances, a lot of things that it creates an environment where the kids act out a little more.
Yeah.
Because they don't even understand where their temperament is coming from.
Right.
It's just,
Right.
you know.
They live under stressful conditions.
There have been studies that support that statement, actually, that children who are hungry lack in concentration. A child, they're a one-track mind, really, depending on how young they are, and they can't focus on anything past their empty stomach. And so their learning environment becomes obsolete if they're hungry.
Wow, no, absolutely. We have some comments coming in. Some of them, we can't pull them up right now, but we'll show them in the Hangout if you can. One just says, thank you for giving back 50 Cent. Of course, people are very appreciative of it. Inquisitive87 says, 50 is an articulate brother. I'm always fascinated when people say that. I get that a lot too. You know, most black people can read and, it's like, wow, you're so articulate. Why are people shocked that somebody who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars might be able to express their ideas clearly?
Well, because a lot of the actual content, the music, it isn't, when you utilize the slang, to create it's a vibe. It's creating the energy that you feel in the actual environment.
Yeah.
And it's limited. You don't have to use what you were using in action in business when you're actually writing on an actual record. You want it to feel like you're in the neighborhood. You want it to feel like you're in that moment. So you do things. That's like, there's points where I talk to people that would say some of the lyrical content within hip hop culture is ridiculous. The things that are done for shock value at different points to create a separation from the different genres of music, I think it allows the broadest possible content.
Yeah.
And they'll point out it's misogynistic at certain points, but it's clear that if the women don't enjoy themselves within the nightclub environment, there's no party.
Right.
There's no party. Everybody's unhappy when they're unhappy, so it's the thing where the woman is not actually offended because she understands the culture and that didn't actually apply to her.
But is it tough though, especially when you think about the children, right? I mean, if you hear, bitch, get in my car,
Right.
one could argue.
Oh, like, oh, move, bitch, get out the way.
Right.
Anytime you say that, there's like the terminology, bitch. Mm-hmm. Right? You could look at it and say, oh, it's completely negative, but then the woman that is actually saying it's completely negative will call her girlfriend, bitch, would you hurry up?
Yeah.
And it's not offensive at that point when she utilized it.
Right.
So it's just, you have a point when someone's actually being what you would describe that word as. So it's like at whatever point that you actually utilize it at, is you saying it's completely negative, then you're saying that hip-hop culture didn't invent the word bitch.
No doubt.
That was invented long before, but if you're gonna paint, let me use the American flag, let's make this patriotic, being that we in a point of election and everything going on. Let's say you ask an artist to paint the American flag, just don't use red. Just don't use the ugly part.
Right.
It's not cool. And then to say within the music culture, offer us everything, but just give us the PG-13 version of it. Don't really tell us about your actual struggles or the things that people would have said to you directly within the environment that would make you feel different or provoke emotions.
But is there a way, by the way, the comments went from like 40 to like 116 right at that minute when you said that. So we're gonna read some of those. But is there a way though to tell the story without telling it in a way that normalizes misery or normalizes violence? You know what I mean? So you could talk about people getting killed without talking about it like, I'm gonna go kill somebody because this happened. Right,
and a lot of times within the actual environment and the element of the music itself, if you see the artists are successful. Their representation of not what's actually going on in the environment, but they're trying to create that thing that reflects that energy. And the things that you're closest to, the things that inspire you, are the things that you can, at some points as an artist, convey better than someone else. Like someone who hasn't been exposed to that or hasn't been unfortunate enough to be subjected to it.
Right.
They can't actually write that the same way.
Right, like Kanye can't tell the same story.
Exactly, like that. So that it creates a niche that artist wants to write towards his attributes. You want to stay in the area where you can actually write something that someone else can't. Like that's the only way you create a separation. Once you learn song structure, you can count bars and you can follow whole notes and write melodies and stuff like that, then we all have a similar skill set. But what we say to the general public that they believe creates a difference in character and artist.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that, because sometimes the public believes stuff that just isn't true. I mean, some of these guys, we can talk about that, but Greg, I know you're an artist, you're a poet, you also work with young people, and you've been very critical of hip hop on some level at the same time that you are an artist. What do you say to this as you hear this conversation?
Well, first off, I want to say much gratitude and thanks to 50 Cent for evolving into more of a whole person and an activist in his own right, and seeing that there are other people suffering, because there's a lot of recklessness going on in mainstream music and hip hop at times. And yeah, I am critical of it because I work with kids directly. I run a youth program called the Philadelphia Youth Poetry Movement, and I see our young people come in one way and then leave another because of learning how to articulate their thoughts, how they feel. You know, it's funny, we even talked about food deserts. I'm listening and talking about food deserts where we think a corner store is a grocery store, you know, and our young people haven't been exposed to leave a 4-block radius at times. So it's a big struggle. So I definitely commend 50 on expanding his worldviews and also being more active with it and not saying there's a problem, but also searching a solution.
I hear a butt coming, Greg.
Yeah, the butt's coming.
I was about to say, I've been doing this long enough to know, and so I'm really walking you down the hall. Go ahead, what's the question though?
It's not necessarily a butt, but 50, you started off your career, a lot of it was influenced by the gangster culture, the experiences in the streets, and we could talk about the reflection of the environment a lot. And you have I think you have your 5th project coming out, right?
Right.
Scope?
Yeah.
Right. What I want to know is there going to be more of a balance? Not to say you're going to go most deaf on us,
right,
or Talib Kweli, but is there going to be more of a balance? And will 50 Cent speak from a place that's more what 50 Cent is now, opposed to what he was in 2000 when I was buying the mixtapes by Cool and I brought the album, you know?
Now, that's a good question. That's a good question, Greg, especially when you think about authenticity, because you're not the same dude. You're not that hungry anymore.
Yeah, well, I am exactly the same person that came in 2003. Just I've absorbed new information.
But your new experiences too.
Yeah.
There was like 7 white people when you came in this building. When you walk, you know what I mean? When you come into Queens, there's no entourage of white folk.
You know what? What's really interesting, that comes with the successful projects. And you're moving around and not actually being so jaded by the experience prior to having the ability to hire people that you hire the best possible person instead of looking at what creed or what their nationality is. So for me, like, what he's asking is if the album will have growth. And I said, yeah, of course it will. Like, for me, like, I get a lot of times, I get artists to say, man, I miss the old Fifth. You know why they say that to me, a lot of the actual fans, is because my first album is the largest debut in hip-hop album. And since I released in the Get Rich or Die Trying and In the Club, those projects, they been looking for something to have the same magnitude, the same intensity. And when you point out those other artists, those conscious artists that you've pointed to that have really, I feel like they begin to teach people in the actual music. And people want to have fun. They don't actually want to be taught there. You know, so I feel like watch what I do, not actually what I say at those actual points. When I get ready to put together my actual music and concept for the actual album, of course, the first single, New Day, offers a more inspirational vibe. It's myself, Alicia Keys, and Dr. Dre. And what I said in the first 4 bars is, you can hit your knees on the church floor and pray, get better, or push the door in the liquor store and see where it gets you. But me, I got to be on top. And what I was saying, pointing out at that point is in low-income areas and in environments that you know would be considered the hood, you'll find it more common that you see liquor stores and churches very close to each other. If you go down any one of the main streets or areas, you'll see them 24/7, and it's because the vice that people hold on to when things are very tough for them is the prayer it gets better, or to drink to medicate themselves temporarily to not deal with those actual emotions or feelings at that point. So I'm writing these things into my actual music, trying not to be overwhelming with some of the actual information that I have at the same time, because my actual audience isn't growing at the same pace that I'm growing. And it's obvious because they keep saying, I miss the old Fifth.
Right. No, that's interesting. In some ways, you remind me of the ghetto realist novels like Donald Goines.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you're painting a picture, and when I read Black Girl Laws or Daddy Cool, I get an image of what's right and what's wrong.
I was trying to do what Donald Goines did with those novels, with the G-Unit book sets. I released, I have my own publishing company through Simon & Schuster MTV Pocketbooks. And I would bring together, other Black writers that had previously had books on the actual bestsellers list to create novels, to write books that had slang.
Yeah.
That would capture that low attention span that the actual youth have at different points. To capture that and keep them actually reading the book, because they lose interest in it after a while. They go in for a little while and then they go, this ain't really what's going on outside.
Yeah.
It's cool, but I don't want to be in a fantasy. They want to live things that feel like what's going on right then. And anything that changes too fast is no good for them. It feels like it's fake.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
If it gradually turns into something else, they'll look at it and they listen to you, because they know you know. Like I stopped by a youth program in my actual neighborhood when you said you work with the kids, and when I talk to them, what's interesting is I can't tell who's the bad kids. The bad kids gravitate to me because they know I know what's actually going on in the environment, when a lot of time the person is telling them, you got to do it like this, you got to do this and do that. They look at them like, you're not from here, you don't understand exactly what's going on, and they won't accept the information. So sometimes people do look at the messenger, not the actual message.
Fair enough. It's interesting because you've mentioned G-Unit clothing, you've mentioned a book imprint, you've mentioned, I know you've done films, obviously the music's here, there's global initiatives. You're clearly an entrepreneur in every sense of the word. We had a person, Justin, here, who's a young entrepreneur out from Queens, I think based in Philly now. He had a question for you as well.
Yeah. First of all, I am from Queens. I actually grew up a couple blocks from Andrew Jackson High School, so this is big.
I went to Andrew Jackson.
Oh, I know that. I'm from Murdoch and 209th Street.
Oh, okay.
Enough of this Queens talk, man. The host is from Philly. I don't really care about New York. Go ahead.
But I just, as a young Black entrepreneur, one of the things that kind of stood out following your career is how you made the full transition to entrepreneurship. And I was just kind of wondering how you dealt with, people looking at you as a young black male from the hood and got to respect you on a purely business level.
I think initially it was expected that I wouldn't actually last this long. What made it a really intense show is that I think a lot of people felt like I would be gone, whether it's a mistake that I made and law enforcement was involved, or it was the kind of situation that Jam Master Jay was in where he's killed and no one knows exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So when I say get rich or die trying in a literal fashion, I think they took it where I meant I'm determined I'm gonna make it, or I'm putting everything on the line here.
Right.
And they understood that at the same time, and it was entertaining to them because it allowed me to bring them on a safari through that concrete jungle and get them close enough to the animals without them being in danger. And
I'm sure that's just how they thought about it too. Yeah.
And if you look at it through Middle America, they would enjoy the CD and enjoy the music and have a full understanding of what I'm saying is real because they got a chance to read the small print in the newspaper every day when it says what happened. And understand that it matches up with the content that I'm saying happens consistently in the music. And that would intensify my actual show on those levels. And then when I learned the new information as we were going, because I was completely involved, and I don't mind losing, I just like to lose at my expense, let it be my fault. If I'm losing based on someone else's decision to do it, I'm furious about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I could have learned it and made better judgment myself than to just allow that to happen. I got instincts. A lot of people will gauge your level of intelligence by you having an associate's, bachelor's, or a master's degree, but a lot of those people retain information long enough to pass midterms and never use it.
I got students like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of them. So, like if in a hands-on case and situation, I try to take if you say something to me today, I'll remind you. I remember what you said to me, and that's how I learn a lot of the things that I said. Is because I'm there, and you ever heard of ear hustling?
Oh,
I'm trying to hold on to everything that flies
especially
across.
corporate offices.
Yeah, somebody.
Let me ask you a question, because I know you got. Does this frustrate you though? Because you not only have an empire, you also brought people with you, and I've read some interviews lately, and you seem to be frustrated that some of the people you bring with you don't have that same skill set that you have. That they don't have the same hustle, the same commitment.
When you're there to see how it's actually taking place, I believe you should take full advantage of it. When losing's not an option, then you got to do everything possible to win. And I don't understand how they become complacent and feel like, oh, it's okay. You get people that deal with things by not actually dealing with them, and allow you you're the boss and you actually work for them. Because when you don't call them to say anything about what's going on, they just sit there like, he's coming. He's coming to tell me what's going on, and then when he does, they're gonna do the portion of the job that they're comfortable with.
Right.
Like actually writing the music.
Right.
Just write the music and he'll come tell us what's going on and
the promotion and marketing, all
everything
that other
else
stuff
that they rely on you for, and then it's like you work for them in that case. You know what I'm saying? And if you had forced them early on to have no choice but to focus on those things, maybe they would have done it.
Do you regret that? Do you wish that when you formed G Unit that, particularly with Yayo and Banks, who, as opposed to Game and people came later, but do you wish that you had kind of practiced some more tough love? Do you think you kind of spoiled them almost?
I enabled them.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways I did. Because I did everything, and where I'm from, you kind of have a responsibility to sustain your crew. You are as strong as it.
Yeah.
As your crew.
Yeah.
As a group, when you bring a new artist in and he actually is exciting to a new demographic, when he shows you respect, it also reflects you. It makes that new audience that he just gained look up to you, because he looks up to you. And you'll see that in the chain of things that actually took place, even in, who can I use? Jay-Z.
I was going to ask you about Jay-Z, because you were kind of critical of Jay-Z for how he handled Beanie Siegel, but it seems like you're getting into that same space with your guys. Do you look back?
That's a huge difference. See, because I'm not angry at any of them. I just recognize my actual mistakes. You see what I'm saying? And I wouldn't just put them out in the cold. They got to put themselves out there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And in Jay's case with Kanye, he's able to associate himself with that and make a whole nother cool, a whole new wave of cool without, and it's something that he actually fathered, like he brought it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it happens again. It starts to happen with those new artists under his banner.
Right.
So it strengthens that whole scenario. So that's why I would point that out when the other artists on this end aren't actually, they're waiting for me to do it.
Right, and they can't. And I get that. I want to talk about Feed America before we roll, but I do want to ask you just a couple quick things that people are asking about. One thing is, you know, and you can talk about it really quickly. I know Chris Lighty died.
Right.
Y'all were close. How are you making sense of that at this point? And actually have a little bit of distance, a few weeks away.
Yeah, I still can't make very much sense of it. You know, like the whole theory of him being under financial strain that would support why you might want to do something like kill yourself. It doesn't make any sense to me, you know, because that $5 million that they said he owed the IRS, he didn't owe the IRS $5 million at that point.
Right.
And I also loaned him $1 million that people wouldn't actually be aware of that he paid back. And after the actual timelines that he was supposed to pay it back, so he paid an additional $200,000 on interest on that.
Okay.
So, you know, having a $300,000 piece left is like having $3 left.
I was gonna say that's not.
It's
in
nothing.
this business, that's not even real money.
Yeah,
so
it's like
not to kill yourself, but it's real money.
no, but it's literally a show date.
Right. Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So it's not a big deal for him. So that I can't understand. And my communications with him right before he passed were like he's looking forward to things moving forward. So I can't really.
So you think, without going too deep, do you think it's a conspiracy? Do you think there's some foul play, or do you think maybe we just didn't know his mental health state as well as we thought we did?
Well, I don't know his mental health state now, but
You know, people are saying
it would feel like foul play to me because of my actual interactions.
Okay. One person here asked if there were, you know, I'm not even gonna ask you that question because I asked you that another time. Talk to me. We could play a quick word association game,
Okay.
right? Just give. I'm gonna say a name. You give me 1 or 2 words on it.
Okay.
All right. Mitt Romney.
Uncertain.
Barack Obama.
Another chance.
Lil Wayne.
Cool.
Good answer.
Yeah.
What was the other one? I'm not good. Game.
Game. Tough situation.
Jay-Z.
On his whole career or just him? Just that.
Either one.
Oh, Jay-Z, winner.
Frank Ocean.
Brave.
Hunger. Feed America.
Feeding America.
There you go. You've been talking about that's your project, Feed America. That's what you're here for. That's what you've been doing.
Yeah, but Feeding America, I partnered with them. It actually was interesting. Feeding America was the first choice before I went to the United Nations.
Really?
Yeah. See, I'm not one of those people that go fix the hole in someone else's roof when my house got a hole in it.
Mm.
You know, so I would have started with America, and then I kind of felt like they were uncertain they should be associated with me.
Mm. Really?
Because of the perception, you know, but it's just artist perception. It's the material, the content that you've presented to the general public. So I didn't actually feel disrespected in any way. I just looked at it like, if you really are focused on the actual cause and the people in need, that maybe you would look past the association to who was deciding to want to help.
Exactly.
And actually focus on the cause itself. But it took the response to the connection with the United Nations World Food Program to open up the doors to Feeding America. Because we addressed it first, and it was still an ongoing situation that went on so long that it was already announcements about me working with the United Nations World Food Program, and then it came around full circle. Kind of like seeing the response to that organization and it being positive, saying, it is okay to work with 50 Cent.
That's crazy that you have to actually fight and struggle to help somebody.
Right, it felt like I was calling them to give them my money. You know, like to give you
Right,
some
now,
money.
please
like,
give you some money.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, let me get back to you. I gotta wait for my, you know, my boss, person over me, to give me the information. And then it came around full circle though, but it's a blessing I was able to work with them, and because they are the leading domestic charitable organization against hunger, and they provide 37 million meals per year, 14 million to 14 million to kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And 3 to seniors.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing work. Well, I'm sure you'll help amplify that work both in the United States and also around the world with both of your initiatives, man. I really am grateful for the work that you're doing. I thank you. I wish you luck. And also, I can't wait for this next album. If you need some guest vocals, man, you know, I'm a little older, you know.
He said, you got me?
I got you, man. I got you, man. If we had more time, I would spit something for you, man. But, you know, they're telling me to rap right now. Why y'all laughing? Are y'all laughing right now? Y'all been quiet as mice tonight. Really? You know what, Greg? Get out of Greg. Greg, Justin, Tatiana. Thank y'all for joining the Hangout. Thank you for the work you're doing. Once again, 50 Man, it's been an absolute pleasure. You got to come back when the album comes out and let us know about it,
man.
even if I'm not on it.
I had a great time.
All right, me too, bro. Thank you for watching HuffPost Live. Make sure to continue to keep your comments coming in. Click the video button, click the text button, click that red button right up there. It allows you to become an on-air guest on the segment. Stay up. Mike Sachs is up next at HuffPost Live, where the conversation never stops.